Hi guys, and today I've got the Peugeot 508. This is the GT. This is not the SW, which is the shooting brake and the estate sort of version. This has got the fastback profile to it. I think it's a really sleek and handsome looking saloon. Really much going back to the days of Peugeot design when you had cars like the 406 Coupe. Remember that one? Really beautiful. So much prettier than they had any right to be, almost like a mini Ferrari. So this one I think is a really good looking car. Now they start from just £26,000 for these. There's 3 diesel engine options and 1 hybrid. This one is the range topper. It's actually a petrol car, and you think range topper, and if I tell you 1.6 you'll be like what? But yeah, 1.6 4-cylinder turbo, this one. However, that gives you 225 brake horsepower and 221 pounds-foot of torque. That's good enough to get 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.3 seconds, and it will do a top speed which I think is probably limited to 155 miles per hour. Fuel consumption about 39 miles per gallon is what they quote, and the CO2 130 to 132 grams per 100 kilometer. So the thing about this car is to see what the space is like, what the comfort is like, what the practicality is like, and of course, as usual, let's do that by starting with the boot. I love the 19-inch diamond cut Augusta wheels on this GT version. There's a few extras on this car, and one of the nice things is a touch power lift gate. Look at that. Big old thing, isn't it? Massive tailgate on here, and also that accounts for a massive amount of space. Actually, gargantuan, I would say, by saloon car standards. Little bit of space underneath, but really that's where the spare wheel lives, the space saver spare wheel. Look at that, there's a woofer speaker back here for a little bit of that extra bass. I might be giving that a try later on, and an extra power supply down there. And of course you have split folding rear seats, and I suspect there's a ski slot there as well, so quite handy. This of course is powered. Time to see what the rear passenger space is like. Let's do that next. Okay, nice to get out of the cold there into something of a warm and quite plush cabin. Look at these leather seats. Obviously are all for the GT spec, and actually you can option up even better Napa leather seats as well. But check this out. So I've got, okay, the roof slopes down a little bit, so maybe the headroom could be a little bit tight if you're wearing a hat, which I am, so maybe that's why I'm just right up against it. But again, I'm 6'2" tall. This driver's seat is set for me as well, so I'm sitting behind myself effectively. So keeping that in mind, it's not too bad. For my knees, not an issue at all. It's scooped out here, but I don't actually need it. There is enough room there. There is even room for a little net pocket there as well. That's handy. No issues with my shins there, quite clear. And you can't see it, but I can wiggle my feet around, no problem at all. So that's quite good. Plenty of space there. There are little lights here, which I think they turn on from there or when you open the door, and hooks obviously to hang stuff like that. Nice speaker arrangement, focal, a bit of carbon fibre-ish trim there, quite stylishly done. I mean, if you can make it out, it's a nice sloping sort of thing, but it does sort of rob the sort of window space a little bit, so where the light comes in from. You can also get one with a panoramic roof. That is also an option. Not on this car though. Not fitted to this car, I mean. Down there are, in fact, it's so dark you can't make it out, but there are actually a couple of USB points, so that's quite good. That's very handy. I like that when manufacturers do that. If you have kids, you'll know why. AC vents back here, so that's handy as well. And of course, Isofix child seat anchor points. And we have an armrest. There is, of course, the ski slot that I mentioned earlier. Should you need it, a couple of cup holders in there. But generally, very comfortable, nice and spacious. If you're a bit on the claustrophobic side, just take it for go for a bit of a run in the back seat and see if you're comfortable. But otherwise, it's fine. It puts me in mind a little bit of a Mercedes CLS, the way that roof comes down and it slopes down, sort of very coupe-like. That's what it sort of reminds me of. So very nice back here. What's it like in the front? That's what we need to find out next. Here we go, inside. Check this out, the Peugeot 508, and check out this futuristic dashboard, this cockpit, and this steering wheel. What do you make of this steering wheel? It's not quite a wheel, it's not round at all. It's not just flat bottom like a lot of sporty things these days. It's flat topped as well, and the reason for that, as you can see, is because it's set lower than the average wheel. The way to see the instrument panel, let me turn this car on. It's got start, it's got keyless entry. I'll go through the options in a minute, but it's got keyless entry, keyless start. So there you go. Look at that. Look at all the screens come alive there. Really nice. That's really, really nicely done. And so the reason is that this actually sits above the line of the steering wheel, so the steering wheel is set lower. I've tried this arrangement in the SUV versions of Peugeots as well. I think it works a little bit better there because there's more room. For me, with my longer legs, as the proximity is just a little bit too close to the steering wheel, which I have. You can adjust it for rake, and I've got it on its highest setting. I can put the seat a little bit lower, but I like my seat to be a bit high, and I like to be upright. So depends on your driving style. So definitely try it out for size before you decide to buy one. This instrument panel is absolutely fantastic. I can control it from here, so I can do that. Oh no, that's not the one, sorry, this side. So I can do that, and actually I can configure it. So you can go for minimum. There's your minimum. I'm just going to go through these because I know it's going to take a bit of time, but you know, so the video is going to be a bit longer than normal, but it's worth it because they're really spectacular. And I have actually done these before in Peugeots that I've reviewed in the past, but not here in the UK, so I think it's worth doing that again. So you've got multiple different configurations that you can choose from here. My personal preference is the one with the dials because it looks like a traditional instrument panel, as you can see. Now on top of those ones, there is an additional setting as well. So if you go down here, if you look at these beautiful line of toggle switches that sit right underneath here, by the way, heated seats, which is just a touch like that. In fact, I think I will just turn it on one. 3 gets too hot, so 1 is quite nice. And from here you can control, you know, all the apps, all of the usual things. Climate control, which is on this car. Actually, it's standard on this car. You've got sat nav, and over here, check this out. The one with the person on it, that is your ambiance setting. And when you have ambiance setting, you can then decide, so you can actually, you've also got driving modes down here, but you decide you want to feel a bit aggressive, a bit pumped up, right? You go boost, and then look what happens there. That all goes red, right? And then otherwise, you've got a relax setting. So if I press the relax setting, watch what happens, right? It all calms down. Even the numbers sort of disappear. And if I deactivate the ambiance, you can see that it will return to normal, and you'll get the numbers back. Like I said, there are sports modes down here as well. There's a sporting mode, as you can see. There you go, sport, which is that one. You get a little bit of red on there. Normal, which is what I had it in. It's got adaptive suspension, so that does make a difference to the suspension and the rest of the setup, the transmission and what have you. Comfort, and then eco as well. So that's a lot of the stuff down here. Over here you've got it's got lane keep assist on this one. This one has cruise control. I think on the GT it's actually adaptive cruise control. You got opening there. That's a deep door pocket for you there. It's got massage seats. Let me turn those on. Is that on yet? There you go, green light. Ooh, okay. Talk amongst yourself for a minute. Ooh, yeah, just there. Yeah. Yeah, that hits the spot. That's pretty good actually. It does have pedals as well on here as well, so you can use those. This is obviously the remotes for all the bits and pieces. Trip computer is controlled from this button here. So as you can see, I haven't driven it too much yet. So, but full tank's got 400-mile range. That's pretty good down there. These are all touch buttons. Mode, start button, 8-speed transmission. Got that weird sort of thing, grab handle sort of thing. Little box there with a power supply, cup holders, and quite a deep actual cubby box there with another aux socket there as well. So, you know, and look at these speakers, more speakers, nice. So it's a really, oh, that is nice. That's it, the massage seat is still going. So it's a really nice place. Now I'm just going to go through the options on this car. So basically you get, like I mentioned, it gets the adaptive cruise control and active suspension, leather upholstery with electric adjustable seats. This is on the GT spec, and the massage is also on the GT spec. The iCockpit, which I've just shown you, it's got actually, I'll show you in a minute, it's got the reversing camera with a 360 on it, tire pressure monitor, the stereo, it has so if you go into apps, you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and MirrorLink, so it can do that. By the way, the front USB charging point is under here. So there's a little shelf under there. I'll just show you on the camera. Here you have the 2 USBs and a little area, a little tray to put your phone and stuff. So that's quite handy, quite cool. The other thing I was going to show you, of course, was the reversing camera. and so you get a 360, which at the moment I think is maybe it's a bit muddy here. The sensors have gone off, but anyway, that they normally do work. Trust me. So putting it back into park, I think the next thing to do really is to take it for a little drive and see what it's like. Okay, so let's give this thing a try. Not bad acceleration. We are in comfort mode at the moment. Let's go into normal mode. I haven't really noticed that much difference between the modes, just a slight stiffening up of the suspension and the steering getting a little bit heavier. That's in normal. Let's just go straight up into sport. Yeah, here we go. So, yeah, I mean, acceleration is not at all bad actually, considering. Car feels pretty stable, pretty flanted. It's very wet here. Just avoiding the puddle. But yeah, hold on to the gears. I've got paddle shifts here, which respond pretty well actually. They don't do any throttle blippy thing or anything like that, so there isn't that satisfaction to be had, but otherwise they do respond quite well. So, and it says right there on the top, D3 shows you. So here's another water splashy bit. It's really, really kind of bad. Anyway, so but yeah, so here we go, we're on the move again, and yeah, I mean, the ride actually is very, very good in this car, even on this road, which is actually very, very bumpy. I've been on other cars on this road and you're all over the place, so it's very well settled, very well controlled. It says, and we're in sports mode, so it says a lot for that. Like I said, it's wet, so surprisingly reassuring. Turning is pretty good, not at all an issue. Brakes, not bad at all. You just need to give them a little bit of a push, but not too bad. Acceleration takes a while to come. There you go. There you see the road, undulations of the road really kind of pushing it all over the place. But generally, quite responsive, quite well planted, and reasonably reassuring. And I think that's really what you want from a car like this, isn't it? So, let's go right onto this road, see what it's like. But, you know, overall, this car is a car that actually works with you. I wouldn't say that it's a sports saloon. I mean, it's got a real coupe look about it, a real sporty look about it. One of the things I found with visibility is these pillars, particularly on that side, when you're joining a junction and you're trying to look over to the left, can be a little bit of an obstruction. It's quite thick, and the rake of the angle can hide stuff from you. But other than that, it's not really a problem. The car doesn't feel big, although it is a reasonably largish car, but it doesn't feel, it feels quite a compact size in terms of this sort of vehicle, and very manageable, so that's not a problem at all. Yeah, the brakes could do with a little bit more bite, a little bit more immediate bite. I think that would be more reassuring. But other than that, they are there. They work very well, not a problem. No issues with understeer, even in these wet circumstances. The grip is pretty solid, and so the acceleration out of a corner doesn't really seem to be an issue at all. Like I said, this is more a car that basically, I can imagine this being a great motorway mile chomper, and a reasonably good companion even around town, which is where I've been driving it mostly. But yeah, just burying the throttle there out of that corner, no real issue whatsoever. So there you go, there's the review of the Peugeot 508 GT in the 1.6 petrol, guys, with 225 horsepower, and not bad at all. Yeah, I quite like it. I think it's pretty good. I think it's a very satisfying car to own, a very handsome car. The interior is just fantastic on this thing, and I think that's one of the places where it kind of wins the most, in the simple aesthetics of the car, and in terms of the showroom appeal and what it offers. I think it does a really, really good job. It's a good looking car. It's a sort of car that you park and you look back at it, so that's always a good thing as well. And I think the pricing is not too bad considering the equipment and the spec that you get with it. So there you go, there's the review. Thumbs up from us. Let us know what you think of the car, the review, me, the weather, anything else you want to talk about in the comments about below elsewhere. Make sure that you are subscribing to this and following me on all channels. Just search for #BrownCarGuy. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. On Facebook, I'm aka Brown Car Guy. Just keep searching, just keep following, just keep liking, and just keep telling all your friends to follow me as well. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next one. I know what this feels like. This steering wheel, this would be what it felt like to drive Kit. Remember Kit had that steering wheel which didn't have basically any top or bottom on it? That's what this, because this barely has anything on it. It's literally like, that's the bit that comes out of the top of Kit's steering wheel, and it's actually just attached to the top. That's what it feels like. In fact, they might as well just got rid of that. You know what? It's cooler now that I think of it that way.